Hey guys, Musa here, and today I'm bringing you my Week 3 recap of Sunday's game between the Seattle Seahawks and the Miami Dolphins. Now, without further ado, let's get started. Now, let's kick it off with the injury Seattle suffered in this game, and that goes to defensive lineman Byron Murphy and Leonard Williams. I believe it was Murphy that left in the second quarter. I think they actually both left in the second quarter with injuries. Murphy with a hamstring injury, the rookie, and Leonard Williams with a rib injury, both who left the game in its entirety. When it comes down to it, a hamstring injury, I think maybe you'll be seeing Murphy back on the field, maybe a few missed practices, but you'll be seeing him on the field on Monday night against the Lions. So, in the end, I think that's going to be all right. So, when it comes to Williams, though, depending on the injury, he might be out for a little bit. Now, moving on to the offense, we got the passing game where Geno Smith threw 34 passes for 26 completions, 289 yards, 8.5 averaging the yards per completion, one touchdown, two picks, only sacked 3 times, lost 19 yards, and had a QBR of 35.3. I don't know if that's correct. I'm going to have to look that up and average it out. But then, when it comes to the rating, 86.5 passer rating. Now, when it comes down to it, Geno Smith did his job. I hate that he threw 2 picks, but you can't change it. But regardless of that, the team did a very good job. And to be honest, the next part, the run game, is really, really, really good for the Seattle Seahawks. Because in the run game, we got the running backs getting 100 yards total, all running backs together. 23 carries, 4.3 yards per attempt, and then 2 touchdowns and 13 being the longest one of them ran. I believe that was it wasn't McIntosh, it was Charbonnet. But in the end, what a great game for the running game for Seattle. Passing wise, yardage, that's definitely the receivers and Geno Smith. But when it comes down to the run game, definitely 100%, you had one of the best things for the Seattle Seahawks was the run game. I enjoyed seeing Zach Charbonnet get into the end zone multiple times on Sunday. When it comes to the receiving game, though, 26 receptions, 289 yards, 11.1 yards per attempt, and 1 touchdown, 71 yards was the longest, and that was from DK Metcalf. I'm going to be honest, the Seattle Seahawks did an amazing game against the Miami Dolphins on offense. They did what they needed to do. They got on the board, both running and passing, and to be honest, this team has just impressed me to a level that I didn't think they could do. Now, on to the defense. We got 62 total tackles, 40 solo tackles, 6 sacks, 7 tackles for loss, 3 passes defended, 12 hits on the quarterback, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and 0 yards on picks. But in the end, when it comes down to it, Seattle did their job. We kept them to, I believe it was only 3 points. 3 points, a field goal. That's impressive. And getting to the quarterback 12 times and sacking him 6 times. That is impressive. Now, obviously, we know what happened to Skyler. I'll tell you in the next part. But in the end, when it comes down to it, Seattle did their job. They pressured Skyler Thompson. And that's all they needed to do. Pressure him to make mistakes or pressure him so that they basically can't do anything. Like he's forced to throw it away or something. In the end, there were those plays that Miami got, obviously, but in the end, Seattle did a very good job both offensive and defensively. Now for the Dolphins, they got 3 players on the injury report after the game, and that was Skylar Thompson, who left with a rib injury, Teron Armstead, a tackle, who left with an eye injury, and Kendall Fuller, who entered concussion protocol after the game. In the end, Skylar's probably going to miss a few weeks, and depending on what that eye issue is, I've heard it's a potential concussion. I'm not certain. I cannot find the full data about it. But in the end, eye injury. Depending on what it is, it could miss a few weeks. And Kendall Fuller probably a few weeks with a concussion. Like, there's no playing around with concussions. In the end, the Miami Dolphins had a terrible game, both offensively and defensively. Now, mixing both the quarterbacks, the Skylar Thompson and Tim Boyle, 32 passes, 20 completions, 140 yards, 5.8 yards per attempt, 0 touchdowns, 0 picks, sacked 6 times, lost 46 yards, a 72.3 QBR, and a 78.4 passer rating. When it comes down to it, I think that the Seattle Seahawks did a lot better, and this was split into two quarterbacks when it comes to the Dolphins, Skylar and Tim Boyle. Like I said, like, luckily they didn't throw a pick, but in the end, they didn't get to score a single touchdown. There are some times you could have, and I think sometimes you miss those attempts, but in the end, it doesn't change the fact that you did not make it all the way. Now, when it comes to the rushing game, you got 18 carries for 65 yards, 3.6 yards per attempt, 0 touchdowns, and a long of 13 yards. And I think that was Devon Achen. I think that was the guy who got the 13 yards. But in the end, when it comes down to it, they did, they didn't do that terribly if you're going to combine them. But in the end, statistically, they didn't do enough for the run game. And to be honest, Seattle just ran over you, and that defense just kept Achen in check at times. But obviously, sometimes he was not kept in check. In the end, the receiving game isn't much fun for the Miami Dolphins. Now on to the receiving game, where the Dolphins got 20 receptions, 186 yards, 9.3 yards per attempt, 0 touchdowns, 30 being the longest. I think that was it was Tyreek who got that 30-yarder. And then you get 31 targets. In the end, when it comes down to it, is the Seattle Seahawks receiving game better than the Dolphins? I think not. I actually think Jalen Waddle and Tyreek are better. But in the end, it did not help them. It did not help them to have Tyreek and Jalen back there in the receiving core. In the end, they didn't do enough. They got the L, and Seattle got one over them. But that does not mean that Tyreek or Jalen are any just trash receivers. On the contrary, they're very good. But it was just not their day. Now, moving on to the defense, 69 total tackles, 40 solo tackles, 3 sacks, 6 tackles for loss, 5 passes defended, 7 QB hits, 0 touchdowns, and 2 picks, returned for a total of 2 yards. Now, when it comes down to it, defensively, they did, honestly, in the receiving game, they did what they needed to do. They needed to stop our pass defense, but then forgot that we got some good running backs. Like last week, obviously, Charbonnet didn't do that well, but this week showed us why they should worry about the run game. Even when Kenneth Walker isn't there, we got 2 scores from that, both, if I'm not mistaken, from Charbonnet. In the end, when it comes down to it, the defense needs to work a little bit better. And yeah, like when it comes down to the secondary, with you got Jalen Ramsey, Javon Holland, Jordan Poyer, and you also got Kendall Fuller, who just entered concussion protocol. And then you got the front 7. Like, you've got to get better. But to be honest, I think that Miami is actually going to go on a downturn without Tua, and now without Skylar either. Now, when it comes down to it, this game just was completely Seattle's game all throughout the first quarter, second, third, fourth, fifth. Well, sorry, not fifth. There was an overtime because we didn't get to a tie. Instead, Seattle just bullied Miami all the way. And yeah, I think that Seattle did a very good job. Miami needs to improve a little bit. And Seattle's now a 3-0 team and leading the NFC West, as all other teams are 1-2. I did not expect the Seattle Seahawks not only leading the division, but leading them by 2 games. Like, that is impressive. And to be honest, it's something to look forward to. Well, that was it for this video. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you're a Dolphins fan, comment it down below. If you're a Seahawks fan, comment it down below. If you're not a fan of either, comment down your team below. Now, like this video if you liked it, subscribe, and hit the notification if you want more videos. And I'll see you guys next time.